technology, entrepreneurship, community, and health. And this is founded as part of the Math Honor Society. And kind of the goal of this initiative is every month to poll student interest and bring in a guest speaker that will talk about some sort of like deep or like interdisciplinary topic in that field to kind of interest students and open their eyes to like the different actual career paths, opportunities, and just like how interconnected our world is in those different technological fields and industries. So today's speaker is Stony Brook Honors College student Nick Samatakis, and he's going to be talking all about artificial intelligence as well as some cool projects he might have done and different fields that AI can be used, advantages, disadvantages, and a bunch of different things like that. So please give me your attention and please welcome Nick.
Thank you, Amira. So, hi guys, my name is Nick. You guys are probably thinking right now, why am I not home watching TikTok? I'm over here watching this guy. Okay, well, I'm gonna give you guys a reason to wanna be here, okay? So, first, a little about me. This is gonna be short, I promise. So, I go to Stony Brook. I once was an AI researcher at UConn summer of 2023. I was an AI software engineer intern at West Palm Test Prep and at Zebra previously. So I know a lot about AI. That's the key from that slide. So I'm going to try to share some of that with you guys today. But before we can talk about anything quite interesting, we have to understand what AI is, right? And there's lots of people's opinions. People have lots of opinions on what AI can be, right? Some people say, oh my God, it's so amazing, it's great, it's gonna fix everything. We're gonna have more jobs, we're gonna have less poverty, increased standard of living, everything's gonna be better with AI, right? It does our homework, it's gonna make everything good, right? Or, a lot of people say, oh my God, it's gonna get rid of all these jobs, we're gonna have more poverty, it's gonna decrease standard of living. Lots of people say that too. So you might think to yourself, well, okay, so some people say it's really good, some people say it's really bad. What is it? What I know AI to be is AI is powerful. It's going to affect all these things. Doesn't mean it's going to do it in the way that you think. Doesn't mean it's going to do it in the way that your friend thinks or your other friend thinks it is bad. It's somewhere in the gray. That's why I put that gray box there. AI lives in the gray area. It can be used for good, it can be used for bad. It's up to the people that create it to determine how it's used. So I'm going to go into a little more about what AI is now. So AI is really good at understanding language. You guys know, I know when you ask it to write your essays, you're like, okay, AI understands the language, right? Well, it's been hard to get to this point, right? So look at these two sentences, right? Let's eat grandma, let's eat common grandma, right? They're different, you know, you don't want to eat your grandma, but for an AI to understand the difference between these two sentences is actually pretty difficult. And it took a lot of years of developing AI to get to the point where it can understand all of that. Specifically, we need lots and lots of math. And what that means, if you guys have done like, you know, in algebra, right, you have a function, it takes in a variable, like f of x equals x plus 2. Well, for AI to work, you need like x, x1, x2, x3, x to the quadrillion, and then taking into account all those variables, then you have an idea, right? So the models have gotten huge over time. You don't really have to understand what this means really. All I want you to think about is the fact that you need lots and lots of x's, basically, in your function. So we started at about 94 million parameters in 2018. That sounds like a lot. It is a lot, but it's gotten to be way bigger than that. Right now, GPT-4 is around 400 to 500 billion parameters. There's even one that's 1 trillion parameters. So the reason why this is useful is because when you were looking at those questions, those two sentences before, when you want to understand the difference between those sentences, you need all that information. And that's what all those parameters let you do. So I'm going to go into a little bit more math, a tiny bit, not too much. I'm not here to teach you guys math. But the key thing to understand when you're trying to really get what AI is doing with sentences is cosine similarity. So what that is you guys have taken physics most likely, right? You have like two lines in space. Like imagine like this mic and this clicker are like your two vectors, right? You guys can't hear me now. Right? The angle between these two is actually the cosine. Like that's one of the ways that you can measure the difference between these two vectors, just by taking the cosine of these two vectors. And that's actually what they do in AI to understand the difference between sentences. And so you might think, oh, this is super simple. How could this really work? It is more complicated than that, but that's the fundamental thing that they do when they're trying to compare sentences to give you a good output for your AI. And it can do one more thing, actually, beyond that, right? So imagine, okay, I said me, Nick, and Mike. Someone give me their name. Anybody? Call yourself out. Nicole. So I'm Nick, and I'm like explaining to you my day. I'm like, okay, I went to bed at 2 a.m. last night because I was making this presentation, and then I woke up and I drove, and I was vibing to some Kanye, and then I came here, and then I walked on stage, and I didn't have a clicker, and now I have a clicker, right? Okay, so I told you this whole story about my day. I told it to you, Nicole, and then you asked me, "How are you?" Or you asked the AI, more likely, you asked the AI, "How is Nick?" basically, and what the AI is able to do is it takes in all those words that I said, and it determines whether they're positive or negative. So something was positive. I mean, not having a clicker is negative, but the drive was positive. Having all you guys here is positive. So it takes in all the emotions from the words that I just told you, and it's able to determine the meaning of that. And that's one of the most powerful applications of AI. So, technical difficulties. Okay. All right, so one more thing that I want you guys to understand is a little bit of math, a little more math, to understand what ChatGPT is doing when it gives you a sentence, right? So the way that it works is that it wants to predict the next word in the sequence. So, right, when you see ChatGPT loading and it's like outputting your words, right? Let's imagine you stop the loading at right before the word Kate. You see in that sentence, right before that yellow. So everything up until that point is what the AI has already outputted. It says, sorry, the actress that played Rose in the 1997 film Titanic, Before All of Us Were Born, is named, and then the AI is waiting there. And it's trying to predict what's the next word after named. What could I output? The way that it actually works is that it determines a probability distribution of what the next word could possibly be. So there's a 65% chance that it's Kate, a 10% chance that it's Gloria, and so on. It's not like there's only one way that it could be. It actually, there's many different outputs that the AI could come with, but it just gives the most likely outcome that is what it thinks you want. The way that it gets this is that it has the whole internet downloaded onto the AI. So it has all that context. It's like your brain is thinking, okay, what fits the next word probably based on those previous words. And that's how AI works. And that's what AI is good at. And this has real practical applications. So when I was a software engineer last summer at Zebra, I actually worked on some of this exact stuff to try to understand the meaning of words and predict the next word. All this stuff is really useful in real life things. Like if you're trying to understand customer feedback. Some customer gives you feedback like, well, this part of the product was good, this part was bad. And it's kind of an ambiguous statement. Trying to understand that using AI can save a lot of time. So it's not just theoretical stuff, you can use it in the real world. But there's stuff that AI isn't the best at. You know, AI isn't human, and there are things that it really can't do because it's human. So what do I think defines a human? Now, I'm not going to claim to be Aristotle. I am Greek, but I'm not that Greek. But I'm going to attempt to give you my opinion of what is fundamentally human that an AI cannot replicate. And so those three things that I've identified are personality, opinions, and ingenuity. So your personality is what defines who you are. You know, when you talk to your friends, they have different ideas of who you are based off of your extrovertedness, your openness to experience. You guys have heard of the big five personality traits, that kind of stuff, right? Humans are also defined by their opinions. And AI, you can ask an AI. You can ask an AI who's going to win the 2024 election. It's been said it can't have an opinion on that, right? They don't have opinions the same way that humans do. And finally, the fundamental thing that I think makes an AI not human yet, I think the difference between an AI and a human can become closer over time, but as of now, ingenuity is a fundamental difference because an AI relies on context in order to make the predictions that it's giving you when you put it in ChatGPT, right? It has the whole internet at its disposal, and it guesses what next it should output so that it can best address your problem. But it's not actively thinking of a new idea. It's not saying, oh, I see all these ideas, I'm going to think of a new one. It's using those previous ideas. And that ingenuity is fundamentally human. But we do really have a lot of similarities in the way that our brains work and the way that we've tried to model AI after. So, if you guys take an AP site, or AP bio, and have you guys seen the one on the bottom left? Yeah, I know. Me too. But, so I'm not going into the action potential, but I will talk about the structure. So all neurons are connected, and they create this like connected branch in like your brain that allows you to do lots of things. You know, it creates the fight or flight response. There's all these amazing human things. And then we look at, well, what's the structure of AI? What's the structure of the most fundamental AI model? It's a neural network. It's the thing on the right. It looks just like the brain. If you look at a picture of the brain, it looks just almost the same as an AI model would look. And we send signals through the AI model, just like the brain sends signals. And so there is a degree of similarity that's quite eerie when you really look into it. You're like, well, okay, AI is not human, but it really does try to model humans as best as it can. And now we're going to get to the second part of my talk. So the first part, I was trying to explain to you guys what AI is, and give some kind of context so you can understand some of the applications of AI that we always see. There's newspapers every day coming out with a new application. Businesses love it. It's great marketing. The word AI, artificial intelligence, just sounds cool. It adds like lots of aura to whatever you're going to say. So I'm going to talk about some of these some of these applications that can provide fundamental goods to our society. So the first one is one near and dear to my heart, is athletics. I could have gone to the NBA, I'm just joking, but I wanted to, and maybe if I had the technology, I might, right? So VR exposure therapy is something that uses AI to mimic the conditions that you would face in a real life scenario. And I don't mean just mimic the visual, it kind of mimics it in every possible way. It mimics weather. Sometimes they even have ones that mimic temperature. They try to regulate your heart rate so it's the same as if, let's say you're in a clutch situation, you're in a situation where there's pressure on you. It even tries to make your heart rate the same heart rate as it would be in that in-game scenario, virtually through the Oculus, you guys have heard of the Oculus. And that allows players to practice in situations when they normally would have to be on the field with all the other players, and they'd have a higher risk of injury. right? So in the NFL, there were 4,000 injuries over the last 5 seasons. That might not sound like a lot, but there aren't like that many plays in an NFL game. If you have that many injuries, it's pretty bad. And furthermore, 92% of NFL players in this study had some form of CTE. And that's not just from the fact that they were playing in games so much. It was more so the fact that they played AAU and different practice games like constantly during the week so they could get ready for the game. But all that wear and tear on their body eventually led to them getting injured and some of them getting these brain diseases, right? And if we use AI in the form of VR exposure therapy, we can avoid a lot of these bad outcomes and just never have to deal with it. Another application of AI is in healthcare. You guys can see this if you go to your doctor. I know I saw this. They confirmed my diagnosis one time with taking a video of me and checking if I had a fever. And I was like, what? How are they doing that? But they have this really cool technology now where they can detect your face and if they have a normal picture of your face, they can compare the picture that they had taken when your face was normal to the face when you had a fever, and they can say, oh, his temperature must have risen, and they can confirm the doctor's diagnosis. And so this technology and others can eventually help save lives, and it's being integrated into healthcare, all through our hospitals and doctors' offices in America. Okay, finance. Everybody likes this because they can make money, right? So I can give you guys a little story about me. I'm currently looking for a job for next summer, right? If you guys have heard, job market's not so bueno. It's pretty bad. But one of the most popular jobs that they have for someone like me is actually to do software engineering for financial purposes. And what that really means is they have these large systems, like you guys have heard of the NASDAQ and all these large stock markets, right? There's so many factors that go into whether a stock goes up or down. You guys might take in a business class on it. They try to give you some general indicators of how it happens, but it's really hard to predict. And more than that, it's really hard to predict it consistently. You can have one day where you see this one stock and you're like, oh, I think it's going to go up. And you're right, and it does. But that is more so closer to gambling. The thing that these companies are really interested in is actually understanding the stock on such a fundamental level that they can predict it. And the only way they can do that is through AI. I showed you that graph before with all those millions and billions of parameters. That's what you need in order to model such a complex system like the financial market. And so with these complex models, you can take into account so many factors that you actually can predict consistently whether these funds do well. There was actually a famous hedge fund on Long Island that is the reason for Stony Brook University having so much money for science stuff is there was this hedge fund called Renaissance that used lots of math. Like the initial part of AI movement, they used a lot of those neural networks to predict correctly the stock market so well that they made lots and lots of money. They just donated Stony Brook like $500 million actually, because of how successful they were. And they were able to bring in lots of great scientists to keep this going. But that just shows you the power that AI can have when trying to predict financial markets. And fourth one is my favorite, is entertainment. So you guys have seen this on Instagram. I'm sure your favorite athlete, LeBron, I don't know, Ariana Grande, you probably hear her voice, and you're like, how did the AI accurately make her voice? It's because they have models that are trained on understanding the vocal tones that those celebrities use, and they're able to model it very well. And this is both amazing and scary. I'll go over the scary first, and then the amazing. So the scary part is, soon, we're not going to know what is real and what's not real. When you look up a clip on YouTube, you are going to have no idea. The video could be AI, the voice could be AI, the pictures could be AI. That picture looks real. I mean, I can tell it's AI mostly, but it is so close to real that I'm not really sure that could be tell. Right? So you're gonna open your phone, you're gonna scroll TikTok, and I'm sure you're not gonna know. Right? And then how are we gonna trust anything? How are you gonna know what your politician thinks, what your favorite athlete thinks? Right? That's very scary. How are we gonna know what is true? So that's scary, but there's also some fun things that I really like. So, okay, when I was a kid, still kind of now, I love Spider-Man. And this show that I liked, the Spectacular Spider-Man, was canceled in 2008, right? And normally, I have no hope that I'd ever get it back. There was some conflict between the screenwriters and the actors, and it just got canceled. And I was sad, I was crying in my room. And then I thought about, well, AI can actually do this, right? Because if you fed AI all the episodes from your favorite TV show that got canceled, and you said, okay, make me a new season, it actually soon, like pretty soon, it's like very close to being developed, would be able to do that. And the fun thing about that is that you would have basically unlimited entertainment. Any show that you like, you could AI generate more episodes, and you could always have more entertainment. Also, for these companies that are making shows, they would have to pay less money because they wouldn't really need actors. They would have actors, but they would just create them artificially, and they would serve the same purpose. So that's really cool. The next part of my talk is going to talk about the fundamental use case of AI that I am most interested in, that I have done the most active work in, and that I can speak to on the most deep level. So what I've talked to you guys about so far are just some cool applications of AI that I haven't personally contributed to, but I've learned about. In this next part of the talk, I'm going to talk to you about the one that I know the most about. So when I was a young kid, I could not afford tutoring, right? And it's not a huge deal, but when you're trying to get into the best colleges, learn the best material, when you're a really focused student, it's something that's really, really useful and that lots of kids have at their disposal, or lots of kids would like to have at their disposal. But in America, only 15% of kids actually receive any form of tutoring. And it's pretty expensive, especially for the good kind of tutoring. Because at the current moment, you can learn a subject on some level of, some degree of depth without doing tutoring, for sure. But the high-end tutors that would actually increase a student's understanding of the material range at around even close to $100 plus an hour to get that deep understanding, right? And so that's not affordable for most people. And so I want to develop technology, and I'm actively working on technology to do so. So you guys can scan this QR code. Actually, I am currently working on a website called wiz.study, which does completely free SAT prep. It has 20 diagnostic SATs and 10 diagnostic PSATs. If you guys are taking the SAT, I'd highly recommend using it. But the purpose of me bringing this up is that I am actively working on developing an AI tutor within the app to work with kids to enhance their understanding in the same way that a human tutor could. And so my goal is to eventually get to the point where kids that normally wouldn't have access to that tutoring because they can't afford $100 an hour would have access to an AI tutor that could provide that same kind of expertise and guidance to them that they would have otherwise done. So yeah, take a look. I hope you guys like it. So this is with my internship at West Palm Test Prep. This is what I've been working on for the last since last October. And one of the keys to making this work is image processing, right? So especially for the math section and even for the reading, you want to understand not only like, okay, the student picked the wrong answer, great, but you want to figure out where the student went wrong when they were choosing the wrong answer. You know, did they not subtract the x over? Did they not isolate the variable? Whatever their mathematical mistake could have been, you want to isolate it and you want to understand it. And fundamentally, what this requires is a deep understanding of images. And so I did a little bit of this at actually a different experience. So I mentioned that I was an AI researcher at UConn. I was working in the voting system there. And what I was doing was I was helping audit their ballots. So I would get a ballot, it had a bunch of bubbles, they were either filled or blank, and I would determine whether each of those bubbles were filled or blank and check whether the ballot marking device, what you put your vote into when you go and you vote, actually worked. And so I'm going to put you guys through a little exercise to show you how this works, okay? So everybody raise your hand if you think that this ballot is filled. Is it filled? Yeah? Okay. Raise your hand if you think it's blank. Yay! So good. You guys are good at AI. Yeah, that bubble is filled. What about this bubble? Is this bubble filled? Raise your hand if you think this bubble is filled. Raise your hand if you think this bubble is blank. Okay, good. So we got half and half, and that's perfect because we don't know what this bubble is. AI doesn't know either, right? So that's one of the challenges, right? So images are ambiguous sometimes. You don't always know what they are, right? This person could have been just having fun scribbling, or he could have just marked it and meant for it to be filled fully, but just forgot to fill it fully. Most likely he didn't mean to fill it from this mark. It kind of looks like he did, but you don't really know. And these kind of ambiguities are what make image processing so difficult. But I was eventually able to identify these bubbles specifically, just in this like small case where you feed it an image and you say, pick one of these two categories, filled or blank. And I was able to get 99.7% accuracy on this small application, right? The bigger application that I was talking about earlier is for education, for test prep. And that requires something like this. You need to be able to take in a student's work and determine if they understand the material or if they don't. In this case, they got it right, so the AI would be like, well, this student seems to understand the system's equations, principles, and they can proceed from here. If they didn't get it right, the purpose of the AI would be to identify where they went wrong and give the students some feedback on how they can improve, maybe walk them through another example, just like a normal tutor would, but the AI would do this automatically without having to be prompted by a human. And so, education should be free. It evens the playing field for students, and it gives them the ability to achieve their dreams, however high they may be. And every student deserves this opportunity. Thank you. Any questions? Yes. That's a great question. Okay, I'm gonna answer this truthfully. I was on TikTok, and I was just like wondering how it knew so much about me. Like it pulled from my photos at some point, and it figured out that I had a Maltese, and then it was like showing me dog videos of a Maltese, and I'm like, how does it know this much about me? And then it would show me videos of like Greek basketball players, and I'm like, okay, yo, this is crazy. I haven't told it anything. Like, how does it know who I am? And I saw this, and I was really intrigued by just the the technology behind that, and I read about how TikTok was formed, and that kind of sparked my career. Yeah.
How easy was it, or how hard was it for you to secure those like internship opportunities that allowed you to kind of explore more about something that just AI or what you want to know?
Yeah, so internships are difficult. I can tell you guys that when you eventually figure out what you want to do, don't be discouraged when you start applying for internships and jobs and things like that. I got rejected and I failed my first 2 or 3 interviews, and that didn't stop me. I kept trying, and the program that I found that actually really helped me was the Research for Undergraduates program, Research Experience for Undergraduates. That's what I was talking about with my UConn experience. So the government has money that it has to pay to kids who are in college or even going into college. So if you guys are seniors, for the upcoming summer, these programs sometimes even take in seniors. And they let you guys do research, paid research, so you get about $6,000, and you get to live in a dorm on campus, and you get to work on research with geniuses. Because anybody who works at one of these colleges and does computer science or biology or chemistry, they're geniuses. And so it's a really good opportunity that nobody really knows about, that's separate from internships, that's easy to get. And I would say for internships, the key is you have to have a good resume, and you have to make sure you talk to people. Because referrals in this market are the baseline to get in. So make sure to make friends and make some smart friends. Is it a what? Sorry. Yeah.
Is that like, that's like not gonna happen? Like,
I honestly, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it is thinking more, for sure. Like the amount that AI can think has definitely increased. So maybe sooner rather than later, you might have a sentient AI. Yeah. Okay. There's lots of things I could say. So specifically for CS, okay, this sounds kind of counterintuitive because the perception of computer science before that they're like antisocial and they might not, know how to touch grass and that kind of thing. But in reality, coding is actually very social. At least I found it so. So I've learned the most computer science with my friends in a random room in the library, sitting there eating a pizza and trying to figure out this bug that we can't figure out for like 4 hours. And having that camaraderie, I think, with friends will push you further, and it'll give you like an extra bit of motivation to continue to learn more.
And besides education and like the website that you're working on, what would you say is your favorite your favorite field to work on AI projects, and two your favorite your most interesting topics just read about what excites you the most about AI, possibilities in the future or AI in a specific field, and what are your interests?
So I told you that I love basketball, so I end up trying to combine my interests, and it's kind of weird because usually you would think that they're distinct and that they wouldn't have some overlap, but it's kind of cool. So you can right, like I was saying that even our language system is so complicated that we need billions of parameters to model it. Well, the way that you play basketball, like how you pass and how you shoot, is similarly very, very complicated. So I like reading about that stuff. There's some cool applications where coaches are trying to train players to make the same decisions that an AI model would make of a player, and I think that's really cool to try to train players in that way. But as for general things to look into, I really enjoy reading about the self-driving car stuff and SpaceX. So SpaceX and Tesla have this unique thing where a lot of their technology is in open source papers that you can like read online, a lot of it. And so I really enjoy reading about self-driving cars because that's one of the most difficult problems, and it also sounds very futuristic. You know, you feel like you're going to be in a different era when you just put in your GPS and you want to go to the tunnel and it'll just take you there.
Do you see that in our future, like all self-driving cars and stuff like that?
I do. I don't see it immediately because there's too many non-self-driving cars. But at the point where the technology is already reaching there, like Teslas are a lot cheaper than they used to be. They used to be like 50K. Now they're closer to 20K, mostly around 20, 30K, but more reasonable prices. That if people decide to buy more electric cars in general, it's going to allow us to have a fully autonomous experience, because then the cars can just communicate with each other, and it's going to be safer than having humans drive, because we make lots of mistakes. The problem with that, though, is that people don't like the computer making a mistake, right? There's that question that is posed sometimes where, okay, you're in your car and you're driving somewhere, or you're not driving, the car is driving you, I guess, and you could save yourself from an accident, or you could save 2 other people. What does your car do? Does it prioritize your life or the 2 other people over there? So there's these fundamentally human decisions that a human in that situation almost always would just save himself, turn right, go the other way. But an AI would have to be programmed to make a decision like that in someone's life. So that's an ethical consideration. You might be like, well, I don't know if I want to be that driving this. Yeah.
And on that line, do you see, like, that there would be, like, more government regulation of AI and stuff? Because, like, I know, like, in some schools, they're, like, kind of banned the use of ChatGPT and other things, and some are, like, on a much larger scale. You see, like, governments see, like, ethical concerns about AI and trying to, like, somehow, like, come down on that stuff.
I think they can try. I don't think they'll get very far, because it's too amazing of a tool, and people know how to do it even locally. So if you have a computer with a big GPU, you can train a model on your laptop, and you can just have it there. So anybody that knows about this technology, I think, is going to want to keep it around. It's just, it's so powerful, and it can do so much good and so much bad, that I think it's just going to be a part of our daily lives. Especially in schools. I see this even in work. I thought that when I would intern at companies that I wouldn't be allowed to use ChatGPT. I thought that it would be like, oh no, we are a big company, we're a corporation, you must code this from scratch. And then I walked in, and in all of our meetings, it's like, how can we integrate ChatGPT into our workflows to make us do more work? So I think at the end of the day, people want to get more done, and the thing that it's going to open up for humans is something even crazier than what you could have imagined. All of those mundane tasks are going to go away. For example, when I was making these slides, I don't know if you guys caught this. All of these images that I have, almost every single one was AI generated. Specifically for the topic that I wanted to talk about. I didn't have to spend time thinking about how to make the image pretty. I didn't have to spend time thinking about any of that. I put it into AI and it did it all for me. When you want to make your calendars, it's going to be able to do it for you. When you want to write an agenda for a meeting, it can auto-complete lots of things. A lot of those mundane tasks are just going to be removed. And we're going to have time for the creative tasks. So that's one of the benefits. Yeah?
I think that it's a good idea for like high school students who are interested in computer science to be taking like college courses about it, but also high school.
Yeah, okay. So I did a lot of that when I was in high school. My older brother did math at Stony Brook. So actually, you guys can do this. I can speak about Stony Brook because I know their program. They allow students in high school to enter as unmatriculated students and to take classes. And the good thing about that is that, first off, lots of them are night classes, so you can take them even if you're in high school. You can take the 20-minute drive out to Stony Brook. And it definitely helps when you're trying to decide what path of career you should go into. So specifically for computer science, I would say math is important too. So either or, if you take intro to computer science, or if you take Calc 2, Calc 3, linear algebra, even up to Calc 4, those won't help for computer science necessarily, but they're still really useful. And for the AI field specifically, it's a lot of math actually. So whatever you want to do, if you want to focus on CS college classes or math college classes, I think both are going to really increase your chance of just being ready when you walk into college. When I walked into Stony Brook, I didn't feel overwhelmed about the classes at all because I had done so many of them before I had walked in that it didn't intimidate me. When you first walk into college, you might think, oh, you know, this is a huge, like, it's going to be like this. This huge lecture hall is going to be your every class, and it's going to be packed. And you might think, I don't know if I'm ready for this. But if you've done it already when you were in high school, you're going to be like, I'm ready for this. So, yeah, definitely. Yeah?
And it said that calculus is good to take. Is it also good to take like statistics courses? Because I know that like AI.
Yes, yes. Definitely stats. So, if you're looking at Stony Brook, actually, there's AMS 310. I think is the like intro to probability and stats. That's a really good course to take. It teaches you a lot of the fundamentals of what is then used for AI stuff. And I think it's a night class. So it's usually offered like 6:30 to 7:50 p.m. at Stony Brook. There's a professor I really like there. His name is Fred Triscoli. If you actually want to take that, I would take it with him. He'd be the person to talk to. The thing about taking the classes is you have to talk to the registrar and get registered as an unmatriculated student, and then you have to pay about $1,000 a course, or around that amount, to take the classes. So they're a bit expensive, but if you're willing to do that, it'd be great.
Any more general questions?
Yeah.
About this, college, is that like a program versus like when you spend time? Sorry, when you spend time at UConn, right?
Yeah.
Would you like the time you spent there better than the time you spent at Stanford College? I'm applying to the Stanford College.
Yeah.
Just wasn't what's it like?
I really like Stony Brook. I live in Deer Park, so it kind of gives me the best of both worlds. Like I can go home when I want, get some home cooked meals, and I can still feel like I'm independent by being at Stony Brook. Stony Brook has a lot going for it right now. Our football team is 5-2. Putting it out there, we're actually good. We used to be bad, but now we're actually good. And I really like the campus. It's beautiful. I am biased though. My whole family's gone to Stony Brook. My dad went to Stony Brook, my mom went to Stony Brook, and my brother. So take that with what you may. As of my experience at UConn is awesome. I was there during the summer. The food was worse in Stony Brook, I will say. So if you're a foodie, I would go to Stony Brook. Go see it.